Summary of the book, The Sociological Imagination, written by C. Wright Mills in 1959. C. Wright Mills's The Sociological Imagination is a classic book in sociology. It was praised by majority readers who consider it a bold manifesto. Mills didn't just want to explain social science, he wanted to shake it up. He believed that too many people were feeling trapped by their personal problems, not realizing that these struggles were often shaped by much larger social forces. So he introduced what he called the sociological imagination, a kind of mental toolset that helps people connect their individual experiences to the broader patterns of history and society. Now, let's walk through the key ideas and arguments he lays out, section by section. 1. The promise of the sociological imagination. Mills kicks things off by talking about the big promise of sociology, to help people understand their private troubles by placing them within the bigger picture of public issues. He points out that many folks feel overwhelmed, alienated, or just plain confused about their lives, and this is often because they don't see how their personal experiences are linked to wider social and historical forces. According to Mills, the sociological imagination is the answer. It bridges that gap. Troubles versus issues. Here, Mills makes an important distinction. He talks about the difference between personal troubles of milieu and public issues of social structure. Personal troubles happen in our immediate everyday world, like a conflict at work or problems in a relationship. These are private matters that we might be able to fix ourselves, but public issues, they go way beyond the individual. These are big picture problems rooted in the way society is structured, like mass unemployment or systemic racism. For example, if one person can't find a job because they lack certain skills, that's a personal trouble. But if thousands are unemployed due to a failing economy, now we're dealing with a public issue. Linking biography and history. This is where things get really interesting. The sociological imagination lets us connect our personal biographies with historical events and social systems. It's about understanding who we are by looking at the time and society we're living in. For example, think about the differences in opportunities available to a young woman in the 1950s compared to one today. Her life choices, her struggles, even her dreams, they're all shaped by the historical moment she's living in. Developing a critical perspective. And it's not just about understanding society, it's about questioning it. Mills wanted sociologists to be critical thinkers. He urged us to challenge the status quo, examine power structures, and explore new ways of organizing society. The sociological imagination, at its core, pushes us towards social change and justice. 2. The grand theory and abstracted empiricism. Now, Mills wasn't shy about calling out what he saw as major problems in sociology at the time. He had strong criticisms of two big trends: grand theory and abstracted empiricism. Grand theory, Talcott Parsons. Let's start with grand theory, mainly represented by Talcott Parsons. Mills thought this approach was too abstract, too caught up in fancy language and theoretical models. Parsons tried to create a massive, unified theory of society, something that Mills believed ended up being so complicated it lost touch with real life. Grand theory, in Mills's view, ignored the nitty-gritty realities of people's lives and often ended up supporting the status quo by emphasizing social stability over change. Abstracted empiricism, Paul Lazarsfeld. Then there's abstracted empiricism, which focused heavily on collecting detailed data about specific social behaviors, like voting habits or consumer choices, without linking them to broader social trends. Paul Lazarsfeld's work is a key example. Mills thought this method was too narrow, prioritizing numbers over meaning. He called this a methodological inhibition. an overemphasis on methods that blocked researchers from asking the big, important questions. It often missed the human side of the story and failed to address the root causes of societal problems. 3. The importance of reason and freedom. Mills was passionate about two things: reason and freedom. He saw them as the foundations of a healthy democracy and a just society. Reason. For Mills, reason means being able to think clearly, question the world around us, and come up with rational solutions to social problems. But this only works if people have access to education, information, and open discussion. He warned that when reason fades, when people stop thinking critically, they become easy targets for manipulation and propaganda. Freedom. And freedom? It's not just about the absence of restrictions. It's about having the ability to shape your own life and take part in shaping society. Mills worried that freedom was being eroded by powerful institutions and elites who made decisions without input from ordinary people. When people lose control over their lives, they feel alienated, and that's a major concern for Mills. The role of the intellectual. This brings us to the role of intellectuals, especially sociologists. Mills believed they had a duty to speak up, to challenge dominant ideologies, and to help the public make sense of the world. He called for a new left of intellectuals committed to social justice, democracy, and critical thinking. They had to be courageous enough to speak truth to power. 4. The bureaucratic ethos and the power elite. Next, Mills tackles two major threats to reason and freedom: bureaucracy and the power elite. The bureaucratic ethos. Modern life, Mills argued, is increasingly ruled by bureaucracy, hierarchies, rules, and rigid systems that emphasize efficiency and expertise. While bureaucracy can be useful, it often leads to conformity, loss of creativity, and a blind obedience to authority. People become cogs in the machine, detached from ethical concerns and broader social goals. The power elite. Even more troubling for Mills is the rise of what he calls the power elite, a small, interconnected group that controls the military, big corporations, and the government. These elites share a common worldview and work behind the scenes to shape major decisions that affect everyone else, usually without any real accountability. In Mills' eyes, this concentration of power undermines democracy and limits the public's ability to influence policy or direction. 5. The crisis of modernity. Mills didn't sugarcoat things. He saw modern society as facing a deep crisis. He highlighted three major symptoms of this crisis. Alienation. People feel disconnected from their work, their communities, and even themselves. Much of this stems from how work is organized, how communities have eroded, and how modern life lacks deeper meaning or purpose. Anomie. Then there's anomie, a state of normlessness. Social values are breaking down, traditions are crumbling, and people are left without a clear sense of direction. Rapid change and weakening social bonds contribute to this unsettling feeling. Moral drift. Finally, Mills talks about moral drift. He sees a growing focus on self-interest and a fading concern for others. This ethical decline worries him deeply, especially in a society already losing its grip on reason and freedom. 6. The craftsman. Ideal and the sociological vocation. Despite all the problems, Mills offers a hopeful vision, especially for sociologists. He talks about the craftsman ideal, where the sociologist is seen as a kind of intellectual artisan. The craftsman. Sociologists, Mills argues, should be passionate and hands-on. They should frame their own questions, collect their own data, and interpret it with creativity and care. This craftsman approach is all about intellectual independence, curiosity, and the freedom to pursue what truly matters. The vocation. More than just a job, Mills sees sociology as a vocation, a moral calling. Sociologists have a responsibility to use their knowledge to tackle real-world issues, confront power, and advocate for change. It's about engaging in public discourse, standing firm in your convictions, and working toward a better society. Critical evaluation. TO. The sociological imagination left a big mark on sociology. It pushed sociologists to think bigger, ask better questions, and engage more directly with the world's most pressing issues. It helped lay the groundwork for what's now known as critical sociology, a branch that focuses on power, inequality, and the potential for social transformation. That said, Mills has his critics. Some think he was too harsh on grand theory and abstracted empiricism, arguing that both approaches have their place and value. Others feel that Mills romanticized the role of the intellectual a bit too much, overlooking the collaborative nature of modern research. And some say his view of power was too rigid, not leaving enough room for grassroots movements and individual agency. Still, the core message of the sociological imagination holds strong. We need to think critically, act with integrity, and stay committed to justice. Mills's work continues to challenge and inspire, urging us not just to understand society, but to help shape it for the better. In a world that's only gotten more complex and unequal, the sociological imagination is more necessary than ever.